to the Hoopstrology podcast, brought to you by the Bayou City, and I'm one of your hosts, Jesus Acevedo Jr.
And this is the Zodiac GM.
Zodiac GM. We are recording on Monday night as usual. You fellas are listening on Tuesday. We had a great week of basketball. The in-season tournament started, which I think it's cool that they're doing a in-season tournament. Zodiac, I do agree there's gonna be some changes to it as far as what the winning team gets besides money, right? I think there should be something else, maybe a playoff spot. But I like that at least the NBA is doing something to at least make these early months of the season a little bit more exciting, because typically this is like, it takes a while for the NBA season to really get going. And these have always been the slow months.
Exactly, I agree, and it's fun. It's something different. It's something different, for people to tune in, and plus, also for the players, it's an incentive, to get a some sort of trophy in between the season. So yeah, I think it's a great idea just to test it out and see how it goes in the first year.
In the first year, definitely, and we know the NBA likes to test stuff like the playing tournament, which I think was a great addition to the NBA season. But before we get into our 4 topics, we like to educate you, the public. So today we figured we would talk about earth signs. What can you tell us about earth signs, Zodiac?
Oh, earth signs. All right. So we have the earth signs. They're the Taurus are the fixed of the earth signs. These are back to the qualities. So Virgos are the mutable signs, and the Capricorns are the cardinal signs. So in general, the earth signs are very dependable, grounded, reliable, a little bit materialistic, because of that earthly energy. Very loyal and also practical. So, those are some of the traits of an earth sign.
What are some famous earth sign players that people may, kind of recognize based on their player, just in their demeanor?
Oh, okay. Some of the favorites that people might like. Oh, there's one that's pretty much on the basketball news every single day, seems like, with Victor Wembanyama. He's a Capricorn, okay? And then LeBron James, also a Capricorn. Eric Gordon, Capricorn. So those are a few Capricorn cardinal energy. If we move on to the fixed Taurus energy, you have another guy who's also a rookie this season, technically, Chet Holmgren, Paul George, Chris Paul. So those are some of the Taurians, the Taurus energy. And moving on to the mutable signs of an earth are the Virgos. And you have, the Mikal Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr., the Jimmy Butler, and of course James Harden. And so those are some of some of the Virgo players that's out there. So yeah, earth signs, dependable, well grounded. So those are some of their strong traits of earth.
Strong traits of earth. They're a good sign to have a team, right? Every team should have an earth sign. Well, I guess I'm of the belief that every team should have a lot of signs, right? As long as it's the right chemistry, right? The right mixture,
Exactly, and it's exactly as long as they understand each other. That's all really is, at the end of the day. So yeah, earth signs, they keep you grounded, keep you humble. It keeps you kind of like, hey, get back to reality, instead of, so that's kind of what their energy is like,
Earth sign, very, very opposite as to what, the other signs are, water. And the reason why I bring a water sign is, our first topic today is, kind of a bit of a somber news, in the basketball world. College great coach Bob Knight, unfortunately passed away at the age of 83. He long retired from coaching years ago. But, when we were growing up, Zodiac, he was a mainstay in college basketball. I don't think he won a title when we were watching it growing up, but he was mostly in the 80s. He won 1 title as a player in 1960 and 3 as a head coach in 76, 81, 87, 5 Final Fours. But I think beyond his coaching attributes and what made him a good coach, I think a lot of people would just always remember him for his fiery nature, right? We've all seen that video of him taking that chair and just throwing it across the basketball court. So I've always wondered what is it in astrology that can tell us about the kind of coach that Bob Knight was, and that fiery and that very I'm coming at you like what can astrology tell us?
I got you. So yeah, so every single individuals unique in their own sense, right? So Bob Knight, first of all, his core personality is a Scorpio, and that's his sun sign, right? But just a quick step back to understand about core personalities and what makes an individual is that, there's a makeup, which is the birth chart, right? So the big three is usually their core personality, which is their sun, their moon personality, which controls their emotional reaction, right? And then there's also the rising, which is typically third in command, which is sort of like the mask, what people perceive you and sort of like first impression, right? So Bob Knight, he is a Scorpio, yes, very passionate. But where that fiery is coming from, that fiery personality is coming from, is really from his moon sign. Now his moon sign is a Leo, which is a fire element. So the best way to think about it when you have that sun and moon combination is that you're talking about the fiery sign of a Leo being filtered through his core personality of a Scorpio. So by the end of the day, he still is a Scorpio, but he brings a lot of energy of a Leo to his personality. And it goes to show how he presents himself to the world. And, some of the general traits of that combination is they're very passionate. They love to push the boundaries, and they do operate in extremes, which is a typical Scorpion trait. There's no in between with the Scorpion, right? And there's also a very strong desire to go against the norm. And they're also very charismatic because of the Leo side of him, right? And top of that, they're double fixed sign. So a Scorpio is a fixed sign of a water, and a Leo is a fixed sign of the fire element, right? So you're getting a very strong, dominant, stubborn personality type that's either going to go all in or all out. So there's no in between with this personality combination as what Bob Knight has. And over the years, even if you don't know anything about astrology, you can kind of get a sense just by watching him in the news or in games. He's very, very charismatic, in press conference. He does have a charm to him, but he's also very passionate. So you get that sense of the type of person he is.
Interesting. So it's one of those cases, and I haven't heard much, and I'm sure there are, right? And as we get more into episodes, we're going to find out how a moon sign affects a person, and maybe perhaps they don't know it, right? Because automatically we always think of the sun sign, right? Hey, what's your sign? That is your sun sign, right? That is the first thing people think about. But the moon sign actually affects a person's, how they are perceived to the world and the things they do. So this is a pretty prime example of that, where it's the Leo's driving those actions through the Scorpio. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say, exactly, yes. And then, there's no, you can have 10 Scorpios and they all could be different, So there's mainly because of the way their birth chart DNA is made up, you mix in all of these other energies, but by the end of the day, it's still being portrayed or filtered through their core personality, which in this case is a Scorpion. So yeah.
Well, Bob Knight, well, that tells us something about why he was like that. Leos are very passionate, right? They're known to show off that passion. And I wonder if it was that combination of, like you said, the Scorpio Leo specific, that combination that brought that out of him, it also has to be said, Bob Knight is of a different generation. I don't think if his coaching style would kind of fit a lot in today's day and age. He's kind of that old school kind of, went to Army, was an assistant, started in Army, so yeah. But Bob Knight, rest in peace, one of the greats, perhaps you can make an argument he's on the, top 5 college coaches of all time. One of his coaching tree is actually pretty interesting to look at, famed Duke coach Coach K. He was famously Coach K was his assistant, and we know his story already. But yeah, so the next topic that I want to talk about, is the Golden State Warriors, and specifically their start to the season and how they've incorporated CP3, Chris Paul, into this lineup. They're currently 5-2. Chris Paul has been coming off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've seen him start. But the way they're playing, it has to be said. Chris Paul, his IQ is right. That's one thing that people have always known about. His IQ in basketball is just top top of the world, maybe one of the best. And the Golden State Warriors, we know the chemistry they had as far as like passing the ball and getting each other shots, and they play their roles to perfection. But even their roles can expand, right, depending on the opponent. You know, we've seen Klay Thompson have big games here and there during the playoffs because that's what the game is providing them. You know, and I think that's the genius of the Golden State Warriors, their fluidity. You know, and it seems so far through 7 games that Chris Paul just adds another dimension to that, which just makes that fluidity, that tiki-taka, to put it in soccer terms, when Barcelona was at the heyday, where the ball is just ping-ponging, and you got Chris Paul to that mix, and it's, you know, the evidence is there. 5-2, you know, one of the better scoring teams in the NBA right now.
Definitely, and the chemistry is actually an upgrade since last year too. I mean, Chris Paul is a Taurus. You know, since we mentioned about the Earth element, he brings that ground foundation, dependability, you know, consistency. So it kind of shows off in his element of Earth as well. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about the starting lineup of Golden State Warriors and Chris Paul? You know, those top 6 players. You know, give us the rundown.
So compared to last year, their synergy, their Zodiac synergy wasn't as good. I didn't rate them as high, mainly because,
you know what,
Jordan Poole.
Let me cut you off right there, because I know you're about to talk about Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, and there was a quote that Draymond Green had, because they asked him about the chemistry, right, this season. They asked him, hey, how is the chemistry? I'm not sure what the question was, but I got the answer. You know what? Instead of me reading it, let me just present the quote so we can hear it straight from him. So here we go. This is Draymond Green on the chemistry last season of the team.
Last year we had an awful team as far as chemistry goes. It was pathetic. But chemistry has been a strong suit here. That's why Steph has been here for 15 years, Clay's been here for 13, I've been here for 12, and Loon has been here for 9. Because chemistry is a strong suit, and Andre Iguodala. The list goes on and on. That's why so many guys have been around here for so long, because the chemistry is what we've hung our hat on. Well, you look at last year and you say, oh, man, this team hasn't lost a Western Conference series under Steve Kerr. And then it happens. The big reason why is our chemistry sucked. And so, you know, I don't look at that as, oh, man, like this is a team that, you know, we've struggled with chemistry. I mean, yeah, we struggled with our chemistry for years. It was a 1-year thing. Things, you know, stuff happens, and it was an anomaly. But, you know, we're right back where we need to be in that department. And most importantly, I think there's still room and will be growth in that department.
So those were his words, Zodiac. Now, can you break it down to us from an astrological sense? You know, how spot on was he from a horoscope point of view?
Yeah, he's very spot on, and I think he's pointing to one individual, right, because of the incident that happened. You know, and that's of course Jordan Poole, right? So just a quick breakdown: Jordan Poole, he is a Gemini air sign, right? What Draymond Green is, he is a Pisces, right? So Pisces and Gemini, as far as for elements go, they are not compatible. They are actually opposites, right? So this doesn't mean that just because they're opposite or any other players are opposites are always going to have fights or disagreement. It just means that whatever it is between them, it just didn't click, and it just sort of became more expressive, right? And you know, that eventually what happened with Draymond Green throwing the punch and so forth. And that kind of threw off their chemistry, right? And he's right. And this is a prime example why I believe in the whole Zodiac synergy thing, is because he mentioned it's like going to work. You know, if you have good chemistry, if you have your best friends working there, it's like, hey, I want to go to work. Its chemistry is good. But then if you have some sort of like bad apple or not, or even somewhat an energy that's against you, especially if you're one of the primary rotational players who plays a big part of the offense, it affects the team. Because Draymond Green, you know, he's one of the primary pieces of the offense. And it's being affected with Jordan Poole, and there's just a conflict there, right? And last year, their synergy wasn't really that great. So, but this year, it's a big improvement, mainly because if you subtract Jordan Poole, take off his energy, and then you include an energy that's compatible to Steph Curry and Draymond Green, which is, arguably the two primary pieces of the offense, right? Along with Klay Thompson, of course. Then it improves. and you can tell. I mean, you can already tell the record shows for it this season. So it is a big improvement. Their starting lineup, they have 4 compatible within a starting lineup. Looney, he's the only one that's sort of like the odd man as far as for element compatibility goes. But Curry's compatible to Wiggins is compatible. I'm sorry, Draymond Green is also compatible. So yeah, so it works out very well that way as well. So yeah,
But you know what?
it is an improvement.
But you know what is interesting is that they won a title with Jordan Poole. So that just goes to show you that even if signs don't clash, if the talent is there, and it also adds to Jordan Poole, right? He's a Gemini, mutual sign. So that means he was able to be mutual for a bit. Maybe just that last season, it was just too much. I got my title. And look, I'm going to just say one thing. I'm a Gemini. Every Pisces I play with just have not clicked. And we've been on Team Zodiac where I've clashed with one Pisces point guard. And it just wasn't working out. It just was not working out. I tried my best. And I was just like, I think it's I see it happen. I can see my, Jordan Poole putting that aside. And, especially because I think that was his first or second year with the Golden State Warriors and in the NBA is when they won the title against the Toronto Raptors. Boston. It was Boston. It was Boston.
Yeah.
Boston, oh my God.
Yeah, so it goes to show,
It just goes to show that, but I think enough was enough for Poole and Green. I think, you see the chemistry is so much better with Chris Paul. And, I know Chris Paul may not be starting games, but I think he'll be finishing games here sooner or later. I think that's the genius too, is that, it's so early in the season that Chris Paul doesn't need to be Chris Paul. He can be a Chris Paul light, kind of, and like really go like Chris Paul max second half of the season and into the playoffs, because the last thing you want is for Chris Paul to get hurt again, right? I'm sure that's the last thing that the Golden State Warriors won. One team that is off to a great start, and I have to say this is a team that you told me, and specifically one player you told me this player just hasn't had a fair shake, and that's Kristaps Porzingiz. And he got traded to Boston this offseason, and the first thing he told me was he's finally going to come out. He's finally going to show out and showcase what he can do, because now he has a team that meshes with this chemistry, and that's with the Boston Celtics. And look, they're 5-0. So far, that is true, right? So far, and the way they're playing. And I thought it was interesting that Jason Tatum said recently on an interview that he sees Kristaps Porzingis as his Paul Gasol. So pretty much he's Kobe and Kristaps is Paul Gasol. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And it got me thinking is that Kristaps Porzingis is Boston's number 2 player. I think that's how they should see going forward. And Jaylen Brown be 3, which, hey, no shame in being number 3. Sometimes he can still put up number 2 and number 1 numbers. But I think the way Kristaps Porzingis has been playing so far this season, right, on both sides of the court, not just on offense, because he's been helping them good defensively. I think this team could make a deep run in the playoffs, right? It's so early in the season, but that chemistry, I think, is there. And like I said, you've been telling him about Boston and Kristaps as an off season. So so you were spot on so far, right? Let's hope it stays on good for Boston fans.
Yes. I totally agree. Boston is their stock is on the rise, right? So one key piece that I believe with Porzingis that truly helped his overall synergy was actually the acquisition of Jrue Holiday. And in my opinion, I think that was a big move, because without Jrue Holiday, I think there would be a little bit of slight decrease or downgrade as far as their synergy goes, mainly because Porzingis is a fire sign of a Leo, right? So the way the Boston Celtics is constructed, their core pieces are water dominant. Okay, so Jaylen Brown, he's a Scorpio. Tatum is a Pisces. And then also Derek White, who's a Cancer, which is also part of the reason why they've been so competitive for so many years since Jason Tatum and Brown has been their primary duo, right? So with Porzingis thrown into the mix, my initial thought was, okay, they might have a little slight downgrade. But it wasn't until they picked up Jrue Holiday where I said, okay, Jrue Holiday is a point guard. He is going to be a primary focus of their offense, and that's going to help Porzingis out a lot. So Holiday is a Gemini, and Geminis and Leos work very well together. So it's sort of the best way to look at it. Sort of like Porzingiz is in the corner, like, oh, okay, I have all these water elements. I'll do my best. Because the thing with the Leo, they're a fixed sign, and they don't really like change, and they want to be sort of like left at least to have some sort of focus in the offense, right? But then you bring in Jrue Holidays into the doors of gym, right? And then you're like, all right, I got this energy that's going to click with. Cool, let's get it, you know. So that's the type of energy that Jrue Holiday helps Porzingis with. And Brown, Tatum, and Derek White in particular. And thing with Derek White, notice not that he wasn't anybody, right? But notice how he's all of a sudden fits in the system, right? Because he fits so well with Tatum and Brown. They have that trifecta synergy in the water element, meaning that Brown is a fixed sign of a Scorpio, mutable sign Pisces, and Derek White's a Cancer of a Cardinal. And that's a very strong alignment right there. On top of that, their coach is a Cancer. So they also fit well with their head coach. And that's the reason why Boston has a very, very strong structure already in place. And, you know, on top of that, they have talented players. So it's always on the ups. Right now, they're on the up. You know, so their stock is rising right now.
Right. And from Boston's 5-0 start, Zodiac, we go to the Los Angeles Clippers. And the Los Angeles Clippers, I'm a little upset at them. They made a deal after we recorded last week's episode. They traded for James Harden. You know, funny enough, James Harden was a topic last week, and he's another topic again this week. But this time with the Clippers, because he's now a Los Angeles Clippers. It was a deal that came in the middle of the night, Zodiac, and I think it's one of those deals where I think both teams won. You know, I don't think neither team came out a loser in this trade. You know, Daryl Morey, Virgo, Earthside, famous for always winning trades, but I think they both teams came out okay. You know, but as it comes with the Los Angeles Clippers, they definitely got a player in PJ Tucker that I didn't think was going to be involved, and I think that's a big pickup for them because I think that's. You know, we're going to talk about how offensive they're going to look, but I think defensively is where I think they may have some concern where they're going to have to do a little extra work. But horoscope-wise, what can you tell us about James Harden and how he's going to fit with these Los Angeles Clippers? And, yeah, even throwing PJ Tucker in there as well.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned PJ Tucker because that's actually, you know, Harden's best friend. And oddly enough, of course, they are compatible, right? PJ Tucker's a Taurus and James Harden's a Virgo. And so this is a third team now that they've played together. And notice how he sort of like follows James Harden or wherever Harden goes because that's his best buddy, right? But adding them to the Los Angeles Clippers, I mean, granted, they did lose tonight in Harden's debut with the Clippers, right? Yes, it is his first game. I do agree, yes. But this team, synergy-wise, looks very, very strong. They were already strong before James Harden. They were actually the only team I had rated as an A-plus synergy and also an A-plus talent. But adding James Harden into the mix along with PJ Tucker, it's sort of like A++, if that makes sense, but they're already good as is, and in my opinion, I do see them. Yes, they did lose today, but in my opinion, I do see them being very, very strong, or probably one of the strongest teams in the Western Conference, along with the Denver Nuggets. Harden fits very, very well with the starting five. So Clippers now has all five starters that are very, very compatible with each other. They're all earth and water element dominant.
Wow. Now let me ask you, yeah, you know, like, you know, they did lose today and Harden's debut to the Knicks 97-111. James Harden played 31 minutes, had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. You know, minus 18, but you know, it was his first game really back, I guess. You know, he didn't have much of a preseason, but you know, and to be honest, from the recap that I saw of this game, they were in it up until maybe the fourth quarter, you know, but you saw how it's going to work with James Harden. Things were starting to be fluid. He was running the show at times. Sometimes it was Westbrook, but I think the offense is going to come easy to him. It's defense is where I'm a little concerned with them because let's be honest, James Harden and defense have never been in the same room together at times. You know, he picks and chooses when he wants to be a good defensive player, which I'm not a fan of. But you said so now even with Harden, you say it's the water and earth that's gonna bring that chemistry from them? And then how does Ty Lue and his sign play into this as well?
And I was just quickly analyzing this team. So this team does remind me of the 2017-18 Houston Rockets. And that's big to say because that 2017-18 Houston Rockets, which finished number 1 in the conference before losing to the Golden State Warriors, eventual champions, is that they have a very, very strong roster as far as for compatibility. Ty Lue is a Taurus. Mike D'Antoni was a Taurus with the Rockets, right? Ty Lue also a Taurus, right? So I feel like they have enough. They do have enough as far as for the defense. Yes, there is an aging, Kawhi Leonard, but he's still Kawhi Leonard. And then there also is Paul George, but yes, he still is Paul George and PJ Tucker. So they do have a strong perimeter defense in a sense. And Westbrook, can hold his ground as well. And Plumlee, who's also a Pisces compatible to the rest of the core, also can help out with Zubac, which is another Pisces that's also compatible to the core. So just analyzing the players that they use tonight, I would say at least 8 out of the 9 players that they utilize, or even up to 10, are all water or earth signs, and those two elements work very, very well together. So I think this team, you're going to see, of course, given it granted today was the first time, playing with Harden, but I think in the long run throughout the season, they're going to show their true sense of synergy and chemistry and the power that they hold with the Western Conference.
I do wonder maybe, when it comes to the last shot, right? Who would take the last shot? I wonder if it'll be a by committee situation or if it'll be a de facto Kawhi Leonard takes the last shot because he's been here the longest sort of situation.
Well,
but I do wonder if, because the lack of a cardinal sign, that person that takes the lead by default, that's one thing that this team is lacking, perhaps.
Well, here's the thing. So Kawhi Leonard, he is a Cancer, right? So he is a cardinal sign of the water element. So he does have that natural leadership quality. Doesn't mean that he's a leader on his own. It just pretty much means that when he's given the opportunity or when they ask of him to be a leader, he just naturally has it already in him. But that doesn't mean anyone else is not a leader. But the thing about James Harden, yes, he's known to be one of the top scorers in the league, but him having that Virgo core personality with that mutable sign, they're the one sign that has the ability to actually adapt. So he is a willing player that will allow someone else to take the center stage, right? And then you also have Russell Westbrook and Paul George. Both of those players are fixed signs, right? So Paul George is a Taurus and then Russell Westbrook is a Scorpio. So they don't like change typically. That's sort of like their core energy, right? So if given the opportunity for them to take lead, they can also just do that as well without having any funds. But I think the one that's going to give in, or as far as for his energy goes, is James Harden. Yes, he's known to be one of the top scorers, but he will give the stage to someone else if asked to. So of course, and I think eventually either Paul George or Kawhi Leonard will take that lead, and then James Harden will probably be the third option for that. So that's just the way I think as far as for energy goes. Because if James Harden so happens to be a cardinal sign, right? Say for example, if he was like an Aries or another cardinal sign, then there will be that conflict with him and Kawhi Leonard, and then even Paul George, because they don't like that type of energy that kind of step over other people, So with Harden being a mutable sign, that helps that way. And I think that's part of the reason why they're going to have good synergy, because each energy complements each other very, very well.
And I think all that good synergy would lead to some wins. And I don't think Harden will mind saying the third option on a team that's just winning and, laying it all on the court. Just like we laid it all out on this 4th episode of Hoopstrology. Those are the last topic we have for today. Zodiac GM, last thoughts on this on this 4th episode of Hoopstrology.
Follow us on Twitter X at Hoopstrology and also at the Zodiac GM.
The Zodiac GM at Hoopstrology. Follow the Body Seated and also follow me, Jesus_Acevedo Jr. That is it for us today. Don't forget to subscribe. See ya.